Euclidean tool in Ableton takes a really interesting idea in the world of sequencing. It gives you a way to build immense polyphonic sequences. The thing about this tool and other generative tools in Ableton is the workflow is not always super clear. And just in general, if you're trying to learn how to use sequencers, there's one really simple approach you can always use to get a really cool result. So let's get into it. So this is a really useful way to work with sequencers in general in Ableton. I like to set up the session using scale mode. So if you've watched my previous videos, you can find this button in the top left corner, and I have it set to A minor. You can use, whatever scale you want, but I'm using A minor actually because if you wanted to play your MIDI keyboard onto this and you're not an expert piano player, you know that that's all the white keys only. So if you're just playing the white keys, you're playing the right scale. So it's a useful scale for making music. Now what I'm going to do is highlight, and I'm going to hit Control-Shift-M or Command-Shift-M on Mac. That creates a MIDI region. And I'm going to double down on the scale mode by hitting Scale, which consolidates to just the notes of the scale. I'm going to hit Highlight Scale, so I always know when I'm in or out of that scale for any reason. That comes in handy, especially for generation. And I'm using a sound here with a short decay, basically no sustain. There might be some delay. We can turn that down a little bit, but it's like a shorter sound. And that's going to really come in handy because of the workflow behind how Euclidean works. When you first open up Euclidean, it's going to have things set up in a way where it's going to look something like this. If I hit generate, it's just going to give me like a tetrachord, like 4 notes that, kind of just sounds low and like nothing. And people usually grab rotation and they start like moving this around, and they're just not really getting any result. And that's kind of the problem with this tool, is that it doesn't really seem like there's much that you can do with it to change the sound right away. Like it'll just start looking something like this. People are like, okay, what's the point? You want to build the voicing first. That's my opinion anyway. And this helps a lot with sequencers too, when you're learning a new sequencer. So if I go to voices, you can see it's just chromatic notes, C, C#1, D1, D#. So what we're going to do is build, we're in the scale of A minor. Let's build an A minor chord. This is also a great opportunity to really test yourself if you know how to build a chord. I'm going to build a chord voicing that is going to come in handy so much when you see this later on. So we're going to build this A, we'll move up, we'll do E, so we'll make it like a power chord. And then I want another A, but a higher A, so A2, so higher register A. And then at the very tippy top of this fourth voicing, let's make it a C. So we turn it from a power A to an A minor chord. There you go. So 1, 5 octave, the third at the top. Now at this point, you can see, let's just loop this region. You have some kind of ostinato thing going on. I can even go over here to pattern now and hit this little dice in the middle, and it's just going to start messing around with the sequence. Just make sure I'm set up properly. And it'll just start like rotating things randomly. They won't sound radically different at first, and that's totally fine. The really cool thing you can do with this though is take the top voicing and start moving it around. If your scale highlight gets messed up, you can just toggle scale like that. And now it's back to seeing like everything's in the scale. I can just start moving this around as this loops around the clip. So we're creating a little bit of movement at the top of the chord. And this is where things are going to get really interesting, because we can now just take this and duplicate it. So I'm highlighting this track. I'm going to hit Control D or Command D. And that immediately just reforms it basically in this region. Now, if I go and I select all, so I'm on my second instrument now, right? And I go back to voices, I can create an upper extension to this using the same module. So I can go, let's say, we'll bring the bottom voice up to A2. We'll take this E and we'll bring it up and make this more like a D. So the fourth instead of the third. Then we'll bring this up and maybe we'll have something like a G. So we have the minor 7th. And then we can bring this last voicing up and maybe go for something like a B, which is the 9th. So if I solo this grouping, they're higher notes. And what you're doing is you're creating an extension of the chord. And this is a really, really useful way to use sequencers. And once I'm in this spot, I can grab this and select all and just go back to that dice and just start like re-dicing them. That's pretty cool. So you notice we're creating this wall of sound around a pretty extended A minor chord, and then I can just continue moving these things around manually, especially on the topmost notes. And because these are higher register notes, they have more freedom to move around. Okay, so after some experimentation, I just muted and changed things around a little bit. It's really easy to work within that loop mode because you can kind of like let things flow, which is really useful. Now, when we go back to this area, you'll notice that, in the very beginning, we built this power chord, right? So it was a 1, a fifth, an octave, and a third. If I just go and I click with shift, I can click those regions that I originally created in the chord. So A, E, A, C. Now, if I just hit the down button, I can just move everything down diatonically. You can actually keep doing this, keep going lower and lower and lower. I'm going to hit down arrow again. I can go again. Maybe come back up and resolve back to the 1. So you're creating music with the lower end of the sequence. So you can customize away, and then you can use this voicing here that we originally started with as like the arrangement side of the track, which is kind of cool. So I'm just going to go over here. Remember, highlight the original chord that you built, the root, the fifth, the octave, the third, drag it down, duplicate, grab it, drag it down, duplicate. I'm just hitting the down arrow here. That maybe on the last half. We'll bring it all up. And now I can just duplicate this one. Remember, this is Control D or Command D to do this very quickly. It's really good. Now you have a sequence with a chord progression. Now you can see the whole thing. So yeah, the Euclidean tool is just an excellent way to get a lot of interesting ostinato phrases through it. And if you haven't used a sequencer before, it's really a fun opportunity to try it. As long as you understand how to build some of these simple chords, like the 1, 5 octave third thing I talked about before, you can use that to create chord sequences, like chord progressions within your sequences that makes your music have that movement. And yeah, then you can just experiment away. You can duplicate this. You can grab your instruments and slot them in with other instruments. Like I'll just highlight this one, hit Control G, and then I can stack on other things like a piano within these instruments. That's a really cool thing you can do in Ableton. Just kind of go to town with it and you'll have a lot of fun. So if you found this video useful, hit the like button and subscribe. You would not believe how much it supports the channel. And if you're looking for a huge library of music production resources, I highly recommend checking out the Patreon. It's linked down below. There's hundreds of presets. There's thousands of royalty-free MIDI and tons of exclusive video lessons, including a whole course on vocal production that I've been running since the beginning of the summer. So there's a ton of stuff on there. I've been on Patreon for years now, and it's also a really nice community of real people. You can promote your music there too, which is really fun. And there's just a lot of really nice, talented people there. So I highly recommend you check it out. Thanks for watching. Have fun making music.